Welcome back to another edition of Down to the Wire. Again, alongside my NHL analyst Nolan Thode. Nolan, how are you doing this morning?
It was a rough morning. You and I have discussed this, but got up and I'm ready to shoot the down to the wire. I'm excited.
Starting off with our headlines here on Tuesday, since we went over, last Monday's notes there with the trade deadline. Pavel Francouz, it was announced that he will not be making his season debut. He's not returning this season, out for the playoffs as well. So, Colorado acquiring Devin Dubnyk, that acquisition is looking better than ever, it seems like.
No, exactly. Last year Francouz was a really solid kind of split starter with Grubauer. He kind of struggled with injuries last year. Grubauer did. And Francouz was able to step in, and I think he was like 920 something, just really good numbers, lots of wins. And then people were expecting the same this year, but he battled injuries himself this year, and unfortunate that he's not able to get back out there. But like you said, that Devin Dubnyk acquisition, it looks better, especially now that Grubauer is going to be out for 2 weeks on the COVID list.
Ben Sherratt made his, return to the lineup on Friday against the Calgary Flames for the Montreal Canadiens, and this is a great upgrade for the Habs. Their defense was looking really bad without Sherratt, and they still have defensive issues with him in the lineup, so they obviously have to figure that out. But at least the Habs are getting healthier with the playoffs on the horizon.
No, exactly. I feel like all the headlines that we've had, regarding the Habs have been, Gallagher and guys like that, going down, and us talking about how they're going to have people step up. So, it's nice to see them getting some of their guys back.
It came out that the Vegas Golden Knights were close to acquiring Taylor Hall, so we can only imagine how big of an upgrade that would have been to their top six.
No, exactly. You think of Vegas and, obviously Stone and Pacioretty, their line with Chandler Stevenson is, lethal offensively. And then you got the William Karlsson, Marchand, Riley Smith line. I'm not sure how much they play it together, but I feel like Taylor Hall probably would have slid along, the left wing with Karlsson and Marchand. Maybe move Marchand to the third line. But yeah, it just would have given Vegas, that much more depth, that much more, firepower if they don't have enough already.
Jeff Carter did a Zoom media availability with the Penguins, and he was asked if he, was intending on returning next season. And it came out that, Jeff Carter did plan, is planning on playing next season, which is, good news for the Penguins, since his contract is extended into, further seasons.
Yeah, when they made that trade, I looked at his contract, and it actually he has I think at least one more year after this left, and with this Penguins team, they only have a short window, with the rest of the primes of Crosby and Malkin. So to have Jeff Carter along the ride, it's going to be good for them.
The Red Wings were not willing to move Philip Roenick, and I didn't think they were, because I think Roenick actually leads, the defense in points, and I think he actually leads the team in points, if I'm not mistaken. But, that's such a young piece to the Red Wings there that, I was very surprised to actually see come up in, trade deadline news.
Yeah, exactly. I was surprised as well. Detroit, they ended up moving Mantha. That was a pretty big piece, but I like that they kept Roenick, just because I think he's a good, solid top four defenseman. It's very hard to analyze these Red Wings just because they've been, super bad for the last couple of years. But I think Roenick's just, one of those guys who, once their team starts to get better, I feel like he's going to get a lot more recognition, league wide.
The CHL announced that the Memorial Cup has been canceled, and it's crazy to think that this tournament, this high prestigious tournament, ran through an actual World War. I think they played through World War II or something like that, but now it's been canceled for 2 straight seasons. So and with the OHL not starting up, it doesn't look good for the Ontario players looking to get drafted.
Yeah, you and I have just been talking all season about how it's been so unfortunate for the CHL guys, especially the OHL guys. And I know you and I both are big CHL fans, and the Memorial Cup's, a great tournament every year. Just a lot of young talent, and, these games, they matter, and it's just entertaining. But it's going to be unfortunate that they can't have it run again 2 years in a row.
And one thing that actually is good news here is apparently TSN is buying the rights to CHL action. So depending on how TSN deploys their coverage, whether hopefully it's not on TSN2 because I think you have to pay extra for that channel. But yeah, I think the CHL is about to announce in the coming days that TSN is going to have their rights, and this could fit in well with their World Junior coverage.
Yeah, it kind of fits in. And I feel like, in the, winter months of the year, we always see the ads for the World Juniors on TSN, but now they can start to advertise, these games, kind of hyping up the World Juniors even more. And I think TSN is, the perfect station to have, these rights, because I feel like they'll do a good job of, getting these prospects, these primetime games.
Exactly. And, I think the coverage is very important because, with every World Junior roster that comes, everyone's like, okay, well, who's this player? How has he been doing in their respective leagues? But now since the rumor is that TSN's acquiring the rights, well, they'll have more background information on that player if they decide to tune into the games.
Exactly. You can't complain for more hockey on your TV.
On Wednesday, Yoel Armia did his first Zoom conference since suffering from COVID-19. He believes that he suffered from the UK variant of the coronavirus. So it seems to be the case that the UK and the Brazil variant are both in the North Division. And he actually made his debut back in the lineup as well. So that's another addition to the Habs lineup that was up against the Flames.
Yeah, no, exactly. We're just talking about Sherratt, and now they got Armia back. I think he's another solid piece, underrated, especially. He kind of had a rough start to his career. I think he was drafted in the first round to the Jets, and then he was drafted first round to the Sabres, and then he was moved to the Jets in the Evander Kane-Bogosian deal. Never really worked out, but I feel like once he's gone to Montreal, he's been able to, establish himself as, a middle six or bottom six winger, and he's been good so far.
So a quick interesting tidbit here is that on Wednesday, April 14th, on that day in 1996, Paul Kariya became the first 50 goal scorer in the Anaheim Ducks history. So, just thought, some facts and trivia to throw in there because, decided to switch something up here for once in a while.
Yeah, not bad. I didn't even know Paul Kariya had scored 50 goals in a season. I knew he was great, but 50 goals is an incredible feat.
Jack Eichel is out for the rest of the season. He is seeking, I think he's undergoing season-ending shoulder surgery, so he should be ready for next season. And the Sabres, they're playing really well right now, and that's without Jack Eichel. So you throw him in the mix, and who knows? Maybe they can be better than what they are showing right now.
Yeah, you can look at that situation, but it also kind of pegs the question, there's been Jack Eichel trade rumors this whole season. And, at the start of the year, you would have thought the Sabres would be crazy to trade their superstar player. But, now if people are actually watching these Sabres games, I feel like they have, a little bit of energy that they haven't had in a long time. And, Eichel's not in the lineup. So maybe it allows him to be a little more expendable.
And maybe, the reason why the Sabres have so much energy is because they've been eliminated from playoff contention. And, sometimes, when you get eliminated from playoff contention, you let the younger guys play more. So you play more loose. You let the young guys dictate how your team style is going to be, and they can play spoiler. Like the Penguins are trying to chase the Capitals for first, or I think they're trying to chase either the Capitals or the Islanders for one of the two top spots in the East Division, and the Sabres won that game yesterday. So, the Sabres could be playing spoiler to a lot of these teams that are, vying for seeding positions.
Yeah, they play Boston 3 times this week as well, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do. The whole culture I feel like has shifted, with the firing of Ralph Kruger with this Sabres team. A guy like Casey Middlestat couldn't even get out of the bottom 6 with Ralph Kruger, but now he's having a good couple of weeks. And like you said, they're just kind of letting the young guys play. I think their second round pick from 2018, I'm not too sure on his last name, made his NHL debut last night.
Mattias Samuelsson.
Yeah, Samuelsson. They're just trying to, get everyone in the lineup because, this season's not going anywhere. So might as well give these guys some experience while they can.
more news on the injury front. Ben Bishop and Alex Radulov are both done for the season for the Stars. And, the Stars are actually quite hopeful for Tyler Seguin to make his debut. And I thought that's very important because I know you have him stashed on your fantasy bench there this whole season. And, if they can get Seguin back in the lineup and, although the Stars might not make the playoffs, if they can at least see him play and evaluate him and, if the fans can see some offensive numbers to be put up by Seguin, then, I guess it would be a good end to the season.
No, exactly. Last year, even though they made the Stanley Cup Finals, it was kind of, infamous that Tyler Seguin was having a rough go, offensive production in that playoff. And, it comes out, I think it was because he was injured. And then, he's obviously able to go get that surgery. And hopefully, me as a fantasy owner, and I think all Stars fans alike, are hoping to see him come back and be that, Tyler Seguin of old that, we would have been able to throw a superstar status on maybe.
Jacob Bernard-Docker made his NHL debut on Wednesday night. And, that's just another young piece to the young core for the Ottawa Senators there, showing him off. And, I think he'll be great for them. Hopefully, Eric Brandstrom seems to be getting in the lineup more. So, they got him in the Mark Stone trade with Vegas. And so, you got Brandstrom and Bernard-Docker trying to get into the top four as best as they can. You also got Shabbat to build it around. So, that defense core is taking shape.
No, exactly. They drafted Jake Sanderson 5th overall this year as well. The Senators are going to be a scary team if everything goes according to plan in the next coming years. Just like with Buffalo, Ottawa's letting a lot of their young guys play where they have been doing this all season, but, now guys who their college seasons are over, they're, coming over and starting to make their debuts in the lineup.
So let's just go over JT Miller's comments because that obviously stole headlines there on Wednesday night. Mm-hmm. So he said, "I don't feel ready if I'm being honest. It's kind of crazy. I know everyone has a job to do, but expect our entire team to be ready to play in one practice, and pregame skate is a bit hard to comprehend." He says that because it was announced that the Canucks were supposed to play on Saturday, but or I think Friday, Saturday, and obviously those were postponed. But yeah, those comments had volumes around the league because that's what essentially made the Canucks games got pushed back further, which is good because, you obviously want to give a team enough time to recover, especially after a 3-week layoff with a virus that has killed millions. And, with a variant being the Brazil is so dangerous. So, I agree with Miller here. It takes a lot of courage to come out and say that against the NHL. And I'm glad that he gave an honest response.
No, yeah, me too. And I don't know about you, and obviously I'm not an NHL player, but if my, hockey team hadn't practiced in a couple weeks and, I went on the ice, it would just feel a little weird just having not been there. So I couldn't imagine what these players are going through. Not only are they not being able to practice, but, they're going through some scary stuff at home, just trying to stay healthy, stay safe, and, seeing their family members around them, getting sick because of this. It's just, a rough go the last couple of weeks for the Vancouver Canucks. And I feel like, JT Miller kind of just sums it up. They weren't really ready to play right away. And I think, the NHL, they ended up choosing to, postpone those games. I think it was the right decision.
On Thursday, Nicholas Backstrom played 1,000. They celebrated his 1,000th game, but it was unfortunately the Sabres that stole the headlines there as that was Dustin Tokarski's first win since 2015. It sucks that the Capitals couldn't win one for Nicholas Backstrom there during that game against the Sabres. And, like we just mentioned, the Sabres are going to keep playing the spoiler role. And, that's what is so fun about this playoff race is that, you can never underestimate these teams that have fallen out.
Yeah, no, I think the Sabres got a lot of heart. And, it was emotional for Backstrom. Obviously, 1,000 games, they wanted to get the win. But like you mentioned, Dustin Tokarski, his first win since 2015. His first win since his father passing. So, an emotional game for him as well. Congratulations to Dustin Tokarski. I know you're familiar with him. He played with the Habs, but, I remember him most as the, I feel like he's the Hamilton Bulldogs goalie when they were the AHL team from Montreal. So, love the guy and, congratulations on his first win since 2015.
The Maple Leafs signed their, not 2015, but 15th overall top prospect in the 2020 draft, Rodion Amirov, to a 3-year entry-level contract. I'm not too sure how it plays out since he's in the KHL right now. And, I think he has to wait until his KHL contract is up. And then you have to work out the visa to come and work in Canada. Rodion Amirov seems to be on the way for the Leafs, and just another stud forward to add to their lineup.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of fans were surprised when the Leafs took, a forward at 15 overall. They obviously traded Kasperi Kapanen to get that pick, and I feel like, a lot of fans were expecting maybe defenseman at that spot. I remember I was with my buddy and I was hyping up Braden Schneider, the right-handed guy, he's just a big frame, can move the puck. And I was saying, they should take Schneider, and he was on board with it. And then when they took, Amirov, he was a little upset. But, hopefully, that can be remembered like a Kristaps Porzingis NBA draft moment where, the fans kind of are upset when the pick is made. But, in a couple of years, no complaints about it at all.
So on Thursday, on this day in 2019, the Canes defeated the Capitals 5-0 in Game 3 to win their first home playoff game in 10 years. Warren Fogle and Dougie Hamilton each scored twice. So obviously, Fogle and Hamilton are still a part of the Canes. They're still part of that, group there, that core there that, seems to be going to be in playoff contention for the next almost 5-7 years. And, with the Canes being the Capitals, like that was a shock to everyone because the Canes went on to win that series. And, I think a lot of people had the Capitals winning.
Yeah, no, I know I did for sure. That was the year where all of the, division winners lost in the first round of the playoffs. So it was a shock, for everyone. And a lot of people, it was a, kind of a year of the upsets. And the Canes at that time, it was kind of like a nice little Cinderella run. They made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. But, 2 years later, you look at the Hurricanes and, they're a real threat in the Eastern Conference. Obviously with the division play this year, it's not Eastern Conference, but, just a really great, somewhat young core as well. Like you said, this team, hopefully if they can keep their core together, is going to be, highly competitive for the next, 5 to 10 years.
Tuukka Rask made 22 saves for his 300th NHL win, 300th NHL career win against the Islanders with a 4-1 victory there. And, a lot of people are saying Jeremy Swayman should keep the net there, but a lot of credit goes to Tuukka because, a lot of their success comes from him since, without Hall, they lacked secondary scoring.
Yeah, I think Tuukka Rask, gives them the best chance to win. They like I mentioned last week, they got guys like Halak, Vladar, Swayman. They can step in and, have success just because, the Bruins are super well built. But I think, Tuukka Rask on a single game basis, it gives you your best shot. And I think, they kind of proved that last year, when he stepped out of the bubble and they weren't able to beat the Lightning, when the year before Tuukka Rask kind of, helped them get to that Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Finals. I think Tuukka Rask kind of just, his career somewhat gets taken for granted. Just, incredible stats and, 300 wins is nothing to, scoff at for an NHL goalie.
Sidney Crosby scored a tremendous goal after getting his stick from the equipment manager. And, a lot of credit goes to equipment managers. The Canucks honored their own equipment manager after 3,000 games in the NHL. And, no one really recognizes the equipment managers simply because they aren't stars really, but shout out to him. He got Crosby the stick, and if you guys see the replay, Crosby points to him, and what a goal in my opinion.
No, exactly. You always love to see the equipment manager get on the highlight reel. I saw the post on social media. He leans out, gives Crosby a stick. Crosby eventually goes and scores. And when Crosby scored, the whole bench kind of was just, patting him, gloves all around, just a special moment for him, I'm sure.
On Friday, the Habs called up Cole Caulfield and Caden Primo, but Caden Primo was on an emergency basis. It was a lot of hype around the Montreal Canadiens and calling up their top prospect, Cole Caulfield. However, Caulfield can't play because the Montreal Canadiens have no cap space. And actually, if you factor in all the bonuses or, Caulfield's contract, whatever's in it, he actually makes $1.08 million. So, and the Habs only have $800 $33,000 of cap space left. So due to cap reasons, there has to be an injury to put on LTIR. And even if you put a player that's day-to-day on LTIR, he's out for, I think, 7 to 10 days. And that's when you can return. So Caulfield will most likely not be playing with the Habs this season. He joined the team to practice. And, there's no harm in doing that since Laval was postponed due to the Marlies having a COVID outbreak.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it. I don't know if it was last week's episode or 2 weeks ago, but you said that, the Laval Rocket had a little bit of a break, and we thought that Cole Caulfield was going to get called up. Obviously it would be nice to see him getting in game action. I'm sure you as a Habs fan, are very eager to see him playing, but, saw him playing the AHL. He looks special, and now practicing with the guys in the NHL. It's clear that they plan to have him playing on the NHL roster. I think night 1 of next season.
The San Jose Sharks announced they are hosting fans for home games on April 26th. Or starting April 26th, I should say, but that's when they're gonna sell tickets. And the Blackhawks are actually the only USA team that has not announced fans in the stands, nor have they released any plans. So that's 8 teams left. That the 7 Canadian plus the Blackhawks. So that's crazy. Like for the playoffs, we're gonna have fans, and since we went the bubble without fans, like I've noticed. Without this pandemic, I probably wouldn't have noticed, but the fans play such a big role in momentum wise.
No, exactly. Fans are a huge part of the game, and I think it'll be nice to see them, making somewhat of an impact in the playoffs. Obviously, it's not, sold out arenas, but I feel like in the playoffs, fans are going to understand that energy is super important. I feel like they're going to, step up their game a little bit. They've been back for the regular season, in some arenas, and it's kind of just, nice watching a regular season game. But I feel like once it gets to playoffs, that's when you're going to get, the loud fans, just trying to do everything they can to give their team an advantage.
And who knows, maybe capacities will increase by the time we get to playoffs, because the regular season did get extended because, Colorado has an outbreak. We can mention the Canucks, schedule getting reworked there. But yeah, the schedule, regular season schedule got extended by 1 week. So, that allows for, potentially more increased capacities in those American arenas since everyone's getting vaccinated down there.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that the Dallas Stars are on the outside of the playoffs because, maybe Texas government would allow them to have a full arena. We saw the Texas Rangers with 40,000 a couple weeks ago. Hopefully we just start to see the numbers, start to, slowly climb up. Nothing crazy, but if we can slowly get back to there, especially with all these vaccinations, it's going to be really exciting.
And, I just to add there, like when you throw a health crisis in and you see, a state host a full stadium with basically people that aren't wearing masks, but, and you go like, it's just so crazy how, a pandemic can change your whole perception of fans being in the arena.
Yeah, the pandemic has, brought up a lot of things where, you wouldn't have thought of it being an issue before. I know if I watch, old sports highlights and just see fans, full in the stadiums, no masks, just, especially if it's like a big shot or something in a basketball game, all the fans high-fiving all around. It just kind of like makes you think it's like, no, that wouldn't have been allowed just because of the pandemic. But, hopefully we start to get to see a little more normality in the stands.
The Detroit Red Wings agreed to terms with Lucas Raymond on their entry-level contract. Again, another top prospect. He was drafted 4th overall in the 2020 draft. He has 18 points in 34 games playing for Frölunda, which is a top team in the SHL. 18 points in 34 games may not be eye-popping, but he performed really well with Team Sweden in the World Juniors. 5 points in 5 games. Frölunda, he's probably playing top-line minutes. I didn't go as far as researching that, but he is playing against men in that league.
Yeah, exactly. I think, even 18 points in 34 games is solid just for, a young player to be playing in like a men's league. Lucas Raymond, I'm really excited for him as a prospect just because, the Red Wings, especially now that they traded Anthony Mantha, obviously they got Vrana back, but I feel like there's kind of more of a hole on their wing than there was before. And, I'd like to see maybe even next season Lucas Raymond, stepping in and being an impact, middle 6 winger to start his career and, obviously working his way to being, an elite, top 6 forward.
Adam Lowry cashed in this week, signing a 5 times $16.25 million contract. So it's a 3.25 million AAV, and he has 20 points this season, 10 points last season in 49 games. So obviously a huge increase. He's been such a great, scoring line, I guess, with Andrew Kopp there. I think it's Matthew Perreault as well, the Lowry, Kopp, and Perreault line. I could be wrong, but Andrew Kopp and Adam Lowry have had chemistry on a third line. People usually designate a third line as a checking role, but but with the Jets, you got 3 straight lines with good scoring, and the Jets could be a force to reckon with in the playoffs.
No, exactly. I think if you look at this contract, anybody who thinks that 3.25 is an overpayment, I think they're just wrong, because Adam Lowry does so much for this Jets team. He's a great guy on the draw, good faceoffs guy, can kill penalties. And, this season we hadn't seen this before, but, when they were waiting for Pierre-Luc Dubois to come in and they had a couple injuries as well, he kind of stepped into that top 6. Him and Kopp both, I think, got some opportunities to play with guys like Wheeler, play with guys like Ehlers, and play with Scheifele. And, he proved that he could be very solid offensively as well. So I think, just to keep him for another 5 years, it's a really solid deal for the Jets, and, Adam Lowry staying there.
Linus Ullmark is week to week with a lower body injury. So, with Dustin Tokarski, going to get the majority of the starts, but that leaves the question, when does the top prospect goalie for the Sabres, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, make his debut for the Sabres, obviously? So, hopefully that question will be answered this week. Like you mentioned, the Sabres play Boston 3 times, so maybe they throw UPL in the net there as attendee. So, I do expect at some point that UPL will make his debut.
Yeah, exactly. Me as well. Dustin Tokarski, he's obviously playing, decently well right now, and it's a nice story. However, him getting starts, as I'm sure he's in his mid 30s. It's not doing much for the future, but you want to get Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, not just because he has an amazing name, but he's just a good prospect as well. You want to get him behind the net and kind of see what he can do at an NHL level. And, they're playing solid teams as well. So it'll be a real test. If you throw him in his first career game against a guy like, Bergeron, Pastrnak, and Marchand, Taylor Hall as well, it's going to be a real test, and to see if he can be the goalie of the future for them.
Dylan Holloway, Cole Caulfield's teammate and line mate at Wisconsin, signed his entry-level contract with the Edmonton Oilers. And I believe Holloway's still injured with his broken thumb. I'm not too sure if he is expected to make a recovery this season or if he's out for the rest of the season. But he had 2.66 games at the World Juniors, and he obviously showed off at Wisconsin. I completely forgot to write his numbers down, but anyway, like, Holloway is still a stud of a player, and the Oilers just called up Ryan McLeod, who is point per game in the AHL. So who knows? Maybe it's all part of the Holland plan. And if I have Ken Holland as my GM, well, I'm gonna trust what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly. I think what the Oilers, lacked in the last 10 to 15 years when they've been unsuccessful is just kind of a lack of patience with their prospects. They kind of just tried to rush everyone into the lineup as soon as they could, I felt. And, for a lot of guys, it stunted their growth. And, we've been super patient with these, prospects. Like you mentioned, Ryan McLeod, he was drafted in 2017, 2018, so a couple of years ago, and he hasn't even 2018, and he hasn't played in the NHL yet. So I think, the Oilers, just within the organization have, gotten a lot more experience, especially with Ken Holland coming in. And it's just nice to see, this slower development, and these players, they're actually, stepping into the lineup and being NHL players, in their first game, and not having to, make that adjustment period as long as it used to be.
On Saturday, Shane Pinto made his NHL debut against Montreal. And while I was watching the game, he was making, really great defensive plays, making sure his stick was in the correct lane. He even got some penalty kill time. So, when you're making your debut, you don't really expect to play much of the game at all. But, DJ Smith has a lot of trust in him, and with right, right intentions there, I think Pinto earned the trust. He had a stick in the lane on the penalty kill. He had actually a couple good chances. He was all over the puck, man. And, Montreal came out flat. And, I didn't really think it was allowed in the CBA, but I guess you're allowed to play 2 games under 24 hours. So there's that, especially on a back-to-back. But
Yeah.
Ottawa, they won 4-0, shut out the Montreal Canadiens. And, it was also announced that Brendan Gallagher does not need surgery. So that's huge, because if Brendan Gallagher needed surgery, that would have probably costed him the playoffs at this point. So, it's good news for Montreal as they look to hopefully not get caught by the Flames.
Yeah, no, exactly. And, they're looking at playing Toronto. And I feel like if you're going to have any chance of beating Toronto in the first round, Brendan Gallagher needs to be in your lineup. He just, brings a lot to the lineup, especially against that Leafs team. As for Shane Pinto, yeah, great debut. If I was a Senators fan, you couldn't ask for a lot more. You saw him in a lot of different roles, like you mentioned, on the penalty kill. He was able to get an assist on a empty net goal. He just brought a lot of energy, and it's another exciting piece for the Senators' future. Brandon
Sutter had quite the, I guess, quite the loud quote. I'm forgetting the word here, but it was mind blowing, because he spoke on his COVID experience, and he said, "I had it, my wife had it, my 2 kids had it. Luckily, my kids passed it with flying colors." And he actually pointed out that his wife is 24 weeks pregnant. So hopefully the baby doesn't have any side effects or anything like that. But definitely not good. Like, that's not good news. And with someone who Brandon Sutter made his made his return to the lineup after this outbreak, and I'm glad that he's okay, or doing better than some other guys on the team.
Yeah, it's just tough, imagining a whole family having to go through it because, of their dad's, work in the NHL. And the scariest part about it, like you mentioned, the wife was pregnant. When females go through pregnancy, it's kind of just, they try to keep their bodies as, pure and healthy as they can, not drinking or doing any drugs or anything like that to damage the baby. And, I'm just wondering how a virus like this, could impact that. So hopefully, the baby comes out healthy and lives a great life, but, definitely a scary situation.
Pierre LeBrun said during the Habs intermission that he doesn't expect Phillip Danault to sign a contract extension. And, there's 2 different philosophies. Phillip Danault's point of view is he expects to be paid like a first-line centerman, whereas Montreal is growing and developing Suzuki and Kotkaniemi as their top 2 centers. So, so they see Danault as a third-line center. But yeah, those are the 2 perspectives that are going on. And, Phillip Danault could hit the UFA market, or maybe Seattle takes him. I think Montreal will go with signing Tatar over Danault simply because of the center depth they have. They have Jake Evans on the bench, or on the taxi squad. They have Ryan Poehling, who's been doing really well in the AHL. And who knows, maybe Montreal drafts another centerman this draft.
Yeah, Phillip Danault, I feel like if he's looking for this money, it's probably not in Montreal, just because, they don't have a lot of money to spend. They also have guys to re-sign, and in the coming years, they're going to have guys coming off their, entry-level deals wanting to get paid. So for Danault, a solid 2-way guy, great center in terms of a 2-way game. He was a, borderline Selke candidate last season, and he's having a solid year as well this year. But, yeah, if he can hit that UFA market and get his contract, I'm sure you would be happy for him as a Habs fan, just seeing him able to go get that first line center money that, he's looking for.
Michael Del Zotto accomplished 700 NHL career games. And there's kind of an interesting story to this, because as I was scrolling through Twitter, or just the day after, he came out to the Columbus media saying that, he like his bags were already packed and he was basically expected to get traded. And he was refreshing Twitter, waiting for, a team to come trade for him. But and that's just kind of like a sad way to go about it, because obviously he's been flipped around a lot of teams to this point. And, it's just crazy to think that's a way that someone would go around spending their trade deadline. And, luckily for him, he stayed in Columbus.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he wanted to be traded to a contender. He won the cup with the Blues in 2019. He was just a part of that team, not on their main, top 6, but he was a part of their depth team. For Michael Del Zotto, it's just like, yeah, like you mentioned, it's just a rough go. And I imagine that was a tough day for him, just having, your bags packed, and at any second you could be traded, halfway across the country, just to a different team with guys you've never met, with a coach you've never played for. So hopefully, he enjoys playing in Columbus, and it's good that he's, able to stay there and get to 700 games.
Patrick Marleau tied Gordie Howe's record of all-time games played on Friday with 1,767, and that's a lot. Like you think playing 700 games is a lot. Well, how about playing 1,700? Like this guy has been through. I think this is his 24th season or something like that. But he can break the record tonight, Monday night, as we're recording this.
Yeah.
San Jose is playing Vegas, and I might just flip on the game just to see if there's a ceremony. But man, he was traded to Toronto trying to win a cup. It's sad. It's kind of sad in a way that Marlowe may go down as this, long tenured player and never win a cup.
Yeah. No, 100%. Patrick Marleau has a legendary career, and I think he does make the Hall of Fame. Obviously, most games played in the, NHL history, he'll probably break it tonight. And, Olympic medals, success. He's also had, great seasons in the NHL. But, the one thing that's kind of plagued his career is just, no Stanley Cup. Him and Joe Thornton both, weren't able to do it in San Jose. And, now Joe Thornton is in Toronto, Patrick Marleau back in San Jose. Just an incredible feat. And when you look at the career of Gordie Howe, Gordie Howe played a long, long time into his 50s. So for Patrick Marleau to be able to, potentially pass him is crazy in the modern day.
So on Sunday, in 1999, speaking of players that are retired or are going to retire soon, Wayne Gretzky tallied his 2,847th final NHL point to end his illustrious career there as he played his final game with the New York Rangers. And it's crazy because Gretzky only appeared in like 4,000 games. So when you compare that, or not 4,000, but maybe 4, it was 14. It may have been 1,400. But I was looking at quanthockey.com. That's the website that it's a great database for stats. As great website. I would check it out. But I think he's like 14th on the list or something like that. There's only 3 active players that are on the first 50 on that page. So. For all times game played this is. And so those players are obviously Patrick Marleau, Joe Thornton, like you mentioned, and actually Zdeno Chara. So out of the top, first 50 that are on that page, only 3 are active, which is actually kind of crazy.
Yeah, just in terms of, you talk about longevity, and the seasons are longer now as well. 82 games, weren't that much shorter, back in the day, but some of these players that you and I are used to seeing, on our TV screens, I'm sure they're going to start to make their way up in the list. As for Wayne Gretzky, I found it fitting that he retired in 1999, the great one, number 99. Just a, amazing career, and he was able to celebrate it that night, getting his final point in his final game.
Nolan Foote made his NHL debut for the Devils, and if you guys don't remember, he was actually acquired in the Blake Coleman trade with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So obviously the Lightning could part ways with that prospect. Foote, he's kind of talked about as he has a great shot. We saw him do that at the World Juniors back in 2019 as Canada won gold there. But yeah, Nolan Foote, great. He actually got his first NHL point with the Devils. So. And the Bolts won the cup in 2020. So it seems as though both teams came away with a win in that Blake Coleman trade.
Exactly. I was just about to say that. I feel like this is, a good hockey deal, and, in coming seasons, it's going to start to look like both teams were able to win from it. Blake Coleman, was a part of, what actually pushed the Tampa Bay Lightning in this current core, to actually go and win that Stanley Cup. And then as for New Jersey, they got not only Nolan Foote, but a first-round pick. So essentially two first-round picks for Blake Coleman, not a bad haul. And, Nolan Foote, great shot. We saw it in the World Juniors. Just, at that age, he was making some incredible looks, just putting the thread in the needle. And, hopefully he's a good piece for the Devils moving forward.
Brad Marchand reached 700 career points. He became the 9th player to record 700 points with the Bruins, and actually the 5th fastest to do so. not Bergeron, but Marchand, who's a part of the Bergeron and Pasternak perfection line there in Boston. It seems as though whenever you look at the score sheet and you see Marchand or one of the three, Marchand, Bergeron, or Pasternak score, it seems as though the other two are always on the ice doing something to contribute to that goal.
Yeah, exactly. The chemistry that line has is unreal. And, now with getting Taylor Hall, it allows them to play together, and the Bruins become even, that much more scary. Brad Marchand, I'll always think Brad Marchand's career is interesting because, he was a solid player, obviously, was a solid, top forward in that 2011 Cup run for the Bruins, but, was never, a superstar or anything until, his later years. And he's kind of blossomed into this, aging superstar, for the Bruins. And he's been able to be an incredible player, and congrats to him, for getting 700 career points, all with the same team.
And you also believe that he kind of had a come-out year during the World Cup of Hockey as well, right?
Yeah, no, I believe that for sure. I think that gave his career a little bit of a kickstart that it needed. He was playing with Bergeron and Sidney Crosby on that line. And, I feel like once he realized that he could keep up in that element, he went out and he had a great year. I think he had like 90-something points, the following season. He had 100 as well, I think, in one of the recent years. So, just Brad Marchand, incredible player and, a budding superstar at an older age. You don't see it very often, but, Brad Marchand, the interesting case.
Vitaly Kravzov scored his first NHL goal, and this time it actually counted against the same team, the New Jersey Devils. And if you guys remember, he scored, before, but it got challenged back, I think, because of offside. So, hats off to Kravzov. No rhyme there. I thought that on the top of my head. That's going to be a pun the New York Rangers social media will definitely be using when he scores his first career hat trick. That's for sure.
Yeah, unfortunate that he was able to, that his first goal was called back. You don't want to see him go on a slide after that. Mind games that can get into a player's head. But a phenomenal feed. I think it was from Brett Howden. He was able to just see Kravzov, just by himself, on the right side and, pass it. And Kravzov just had a hard shot. Mac Black couldn't save it. Nice to see, these prospects starting to turn things around for the Rangers.
Vancouver beat Toronto on their first game back from the COVID outbreak. And, of course it was Toronto to lose, right? And, no other team that could do it better than the Toronto Maple Leafs. And, hats off to Vancouver. They played such a great game. Braden Holtby and his Cujo roll save. I mean, that photo needs to get framed in some living room because, man, oh man, with 9.5 left in the third, you could argue that was a game-changing save, a 10 beller right there. I love that game. I was very ecstatic to see Vancouver win because I hate the Toronto Maple Leafs. And obviously William Nylander scored his 100th goal. Shouldn't leave that out of the picture there, but it would go to the headlines for Vancouver for beating Toronto.
Yeah, exactly. Their first game back and they look at the schedule and they have to play the number one team in their division, a team that's, beaten the crap out of them before. I think, a little daunting for them, but, they brought the right attitude and, everything just seemed to go well for the Canucks after being down 2-0, obviously not the start they wanted, but Holtby just, played really great this game. And, he was the reason that they were able to win this. Had he have, had a bad game, it could have gotten out of hand early, but, they were able to, finish the comeback. Bo Horvat with 2 goals and an assist, great game for the captain and just, a great game for Vancouver. And, Leafs fans, they'll try to forget this one, add it to the list with the other games that, they refuse to believe ever happened.
Well, before we get to Pegs' predictions, let's go through, Zach Hogan's power rankings for the North Division. So first overall, first place, he has the Edmonton Oilers. Second, he has the Winnipeg Jets. Third, he has the Toronto Maple Leafs. And fourth, he has the Montreal Canadiens. Fifth, he has the the Calgary Flames. It's the NHL Flames on Twitter. Sixth, he has the Ottawa Senators. And at 7, he has the Vancouver Canucks. I'm very surprised to see the Leafs fall behind the Jets and Oilers. But, I mean, they've been on a skid. Campbell has lost his last 3 starts. He's got pulled. The Jets were the better team on I think it was Saturday night or, Wednesday night, whatever. But Great to see your Oilers reclaim a top spot there in his power rankings for the North Division. He sees it as an Oilers-Habs matchup, and then for the playoffs, and then Jets and Leafs. And, I think Jets and Leafs would be quite an intriguing playoff matchup.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, had you have said Jets and Leafs, you would have thought, Line and Matthews, that those would have been the storylines. However, I think it's just two really solid teams within the division now. It'd be nice to see them play in the playoffs. But like you mentioned, the Leafs, even though they're still first in the North Division, people aren't realizing that they've had a little bit of a rough go in the last month. I feel like that's been kind of shadowed by the fact that, Campbell did have that, 11-game win streak to start the season, but yeah, there's a little bit of error, within this Leafs team, and, they're going to have to fix it before playoffs because, they're a hot and cold team, and, you don't want to be cold heading into the playoffs. That's the worst case scenario.
Moving on to Pegs' predictions here. This is for Tuesday's games. I have the Sabres over the Bruins, Penguins over the Devils, Islanders over the Rangers, Lightning over the Hurricanes, Panthers over the Blue Jackets, Red Wings over the Stars, Canucks over the Leafs, and the Kings over the Ducks.
Yeah, would you ever have thought you'd be picking the Sabres over the Bruins this season, a couple months ago? Probably not. I'll go with the Bruins over the Sabres, even though I like picking the Sabres. I just feel like the Bruins are a really solid team. I'll go with the Penguins over the Devils as well. I'll go with the Islanders over the Rangers. It's been an interesting matchup. I feel like they've kind of split the season so far. Maybe we see it in the playoffs if the Rangers are able to squeak into that fourth spot. I'll go with the Hurricanes over the Lightning. I'll go with the Panthers over the Blue Jackets. I'll go with the Red Wings over the Stars as well. The Red Wings are just kind of a weird team to predict. Sometimes they do look like, the Detroit Red Wings that you expect to see, but, sometimes they're able to, pull out a win that, no one sees coming. I'll go with the Leafs over the Canucks. I don't think they do it 2 nights in a row. They definitely could. They're the Leafs, but I feel like, the anger from last night and a little bit of humiliation will, fuel the Leafs to have a solid game tonight. And I'll go with the Kings over the Ducks as well.
Well, I'd like to thank again Nolan Thode for joining me on another edition of Down to the Wire.
It's always a pleasure, Pags.